Okay, pimp. Look, game recognizes game, okay? That's you gotta give respect to that, you know? I can only assume the comments are gonna be we've entered this time in human civilization where everyone is just trying to out wit the previous guy. I call it the Quill effect, okay? From Guardians of the Galaxy, the Quill effect. It's like no seriousness, and if you're gonna make a joke, you're completely missing the point. And it's fine to make a joke, right? The difference between like a clown and like a guy who's making a joke, right? It's like you need to understand the what's really happening to make the joke appropriate. If you come from a place of just complete hatred, you're gonna miss the point. You know, what do you see here? It's like, okay, there's a Jewish guy. He's having a great time. Everyone's singing. Maybe he came from a plane. Maybe some of these people are traveling with him. They flew to come get him to go to where they're going. You don't know the context. All you know is you got this old guy with a literal army. Okay, you can hate. You're missing the point here. You know, this is what's called winning. Like, oh, what do you mean winning? Like money, power? No, no, race. The race is winning. This is called a winning race. Okay, let me explain something to you. How many of those people do you think are related to that guy? Like all of them? You know, it's like he has the right to walk like a pimp. Okay, he has earned territory. He has claimed a piece of this world rightfully, and it involved no money. The money came after. Okay, let me explain this to you in a different way. Okay, and this is why the American race, the American empire, is completely collapsing, and it's almost beyond saving. I hate to be the only guy that is able to just think on this level. The amount of people who I've met that can think on this level, it's almost like it's beyond repulsive to even like pause for a minute and to realize just how stupid people are, that they don't have this kind of mindset, because this is almost like a fundamental building block here of society. You could have you might not even have two pieces. This guy, he probably didn't have two shekels to rub together, okay, when he started off. But he realized that, what, I'm gonna raise as many kids as possible. It's funny. When I talk to women that I'm potentially trying to date, I'm like, oh, I want a lot of kids. And they'll look at me like, good luck with that. It's like, okay, bitch, next. Okay, you can have $0 to your name. You could be in crippling debt, okay? And you can have kids. And you could raise those kids. Let's take a simple 20-year plan. You could become a surgeon and make 5 3 4 5 million dollars a year, and then you'll squeeze out maybe zero point 0.6 kids. And out of those zero point 0.6 kids, there's probably a 30% chance he's going to be gay, and a 5% chance that he's going to be trans. And then there's probably another 30 to 40% chance he doesn't have a child. Okay? And so, what's the game you're playing there? Right? Or you could be dirt broke, and then you have a bunch of kids. And here's the game plan. Ready? I'll tell you the game plan. It's very simple. You raise them, you raise them at home, you teach them as much as possible, you show them as much about the world. You pick one industry. Just pick one industry. Be like, hey, um, we're gonna, I'm working a lowly job in like a concrete factory. And by the way, this is how they did it. They did this like 200 years ago, and now they're at the top of every freaking industry, and they own every single aspect of society because this is the mentality they came in with. By the way, this is what you're seeing with Indians, by the way. The Indians that came here 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, came in here with this mentality. How many of them taught this to their kids? You know, how many doctors are going to teach their kid what I'm about to say, right? My dad doesn't have like a massive college degree, but what he has value and purpose that he learned from his father. Simple. Be like, "Hey kids, um each one of you is going to work in a different aspect of construction for either one company. You know, you could do it all for one company if they're willing to let you take all your kids to go work there. Or you could be like, hey, some of you work here, some of you work there, see where there's availability. And then every day when you come back together, discuss your work, okay? And in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, when you have a mastery and work hard and make your employer rich and successful, okay? Gain a mastery of each one of these fields. And then, just think about it. Illiterate Mexicans. I'm going to say that one more time. Illiterate Mexicans that don't speak the language have done this in like the time frame of like 5 years. Okay, and I mean going from working at like going to Home Depot and trying to get a job for the day to owning multiple properties and a company in like 5 years. And you're telling me that you, as an American who is born here, can't figure out a way to make money, and you're just gonna sit there and complain, be like, oh, it's just not possible. It's just blah, blah, blah. It's over. Well, yeah, it is over because you suck. That's why it's over. You suck, right? And so let me just further expand upon this example. And this has been done many, 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 many times. You think like, oh, the conspiracy theory of how the Rothschild just owned the world, okay? Because their father taught their like four sons that you will go into each country and you will start a bank. Think about how many generations of accumulating wealth it took to get to that point to make that power move. Okay? They won. They won that race. Now, here's the thing is you always have to stay grounded. You got to be centered with God so you don't get distracted by, Satan and you get led down a different path. It's funny because to convince a Rothschild to make a bad financial decision that will, inevitably crumble his empire, Satan has to give way more of an offer to him. In some scale, you can say that the Rothschild is on a moral high ground compared to you, the average American. All they have to do for you to fuck up is give you Netflix. The Rothschild has to pump billions of dollars to create an industry and a corporation and a means of distribution and risk all this money, and then maybe one of his 12 startups one of those will produce Netflix. You just need $10 a month to go fuck up your entire generational fuck up is $10 a month, you know? And so let me finish this example. Those of you who have an IQ understood immediately when I said he's surrounded by his family. There's a good potential there. I don't need to explain it further. If you had an IQ, you'd be like, yeah, makes sense. Those are probably his grandchildren or his nieces and nephews. Maybe some of them might be close friends. Like some of the other older guys, they could be his close buddies that stuck it through childhood, and they hung out and they worked on it, and they had brotherhood. I can't get one dude to be like, hey man, I'm gonna stop playing like video games or pornography or drinking or any one of these stupid hobbies, and let's just hang out and work on something. Just because I wanna, let's just work on something. Let's just hang out and work on something. Okay, I got nothing better to do. You got big dreams. Let's go work on your dreams. Let's see if that makes sense. Okay, I like this. I can manage this, Like, some people can be like, it's like, okay, I like to program. I want to make a podcast. I want to have a farm. I want to, do these three things. Okay, so that means yard work, digital art, commentary, compiling social media clips, editing videos. There's a number of skills that can go into place. If my hobby was to be like, I want to buy 20 acres and put up houses, okay, I'm short on labor, like a homie would be like, "Oh, I'm off work. Let's go work on your thing." Right? And so that is how everyone grows. Where's my paycheck? Oh, how much are you paying me? That's how you make nothing. That's called slave mentality. Okay? I'm thinking like a free man, right? When you have like 7 kids and they're all working in different industries and they come together, and then you're like, all right, you start having kids in your 20s, mid 20s. Okay, a man can extend that, right? It's like by the time you're like 45, 50, those kids can take over completely, and now you're just in a managerial intellectual position, and you've got 20 years of experience in the industry before your kids even start, and then your kids start in the industry, and so now they can come to, it's like, dude, how many houses do you need to build to know that you could build houses? I once lived in this neighborhood where this Muslim family was down the street, and every year they would buy a neighbor's house, tear it down, and rebuild it and sell it to one of their family members or somebody from, somebody they like, right? And so, I stayed there for a couple of years, and they've probably built 5, 6 houses. They take the profit, they start the next house, they invest it somewhere else, and slowly they're changing the neighborhood, right? I try to explain this to just one friend of mine, and it goes nowhere. It's like I get the message back like, "Oh, yeah, you should do that," or, it's like, "Oh, that sounds great." Oh, blah blah. It's like, okay, you're inactionable. You're useless. There is no act. You've tapped out on your capacity just because you have a comfortable job. They paid you some money and you give up on all. That's called a slave. Just so you know, the concept of slavery was never removed. Okay? Oh, it's just because it's a slave. They've taken the shackles off our body and they put it on our minds. The moment you seek a job, you seek slavery and you think you're a free man. Okay? This is why the American Empire is in such a fucking shit show. There is not a single person out there that I know that I've met that I've yet to come across, especially a white person, to be like, no, you gotta make it on your own, no job. Okay? You can do a job as a backup, but you have to do a business. Be poor and run a business. Do not be rich and have a job. Okay, that is the end of your legacy when you secure a job. Okay, the whole concept of going to college so you could get a good degree, so you could get a nice job, this is called slavery. They say, oh, they want a nation of workers. How did they do that? How do you do that? You convince everyone to get a job. And so option one is you find a woman, that's like, hey, we're going to make it. All right, I'm going to crank out kids, and you can raise them, and we'll have a nice family, and I get to raise a bunch of kids, right? And then you can, you guide them in life, and then we will succeed. And by the time you're like 70, you got 50 grandchildren. Okay, it's like you're all. It's like, how do you produce an army? You can like make your own Roman legion with your cock. Okay, and people don't want to do that. Right? And here's the second option. Okay, or you help somebody in their dream, or you just have a bunch of homies and you work on it together. You take a look at some of these examples of these companies. You can shit talk, be like, oh, there's no way they were they did it on their own. It's obviously an inside. They just gave them money to succeed, but no, work had to be done somewhere. But some of these most successful companies, take a look at Rome, one of the most successful corporation out there, right? It was Romulus and Remus, just two homies. I'm telling you, I've seen this family. It was an old man, and I think his son, and maybe it was his grandfather, the kid, and then the father. And then the most trivial or extreme labor intensive job, they would just pay somebody else to do it. Okay, and they would do the work that doesn't like literally kill them. Maybe the grandfather once did the work that literally killed him, right? And so you have this guy walking down the street, the hallway, and they're just like praising this dude, and it's like, look at this guy, look at what he built. you know it's crazy. That is, you gotta put your, like, you can put any context to this you want. If your initial context is like hatred or like Jews, you've lost the ball. It's fun to make fun of things. It's fun to assume the funny joke, okay? But can you actually assume the beauty of it? This is why, the amount of people who I know that consume Nick Fuentes or are on Kick, like the amount of people that I know that do this that are just complete failures and are incapable of success in life because they've been sold a poison, and it's comfortable. It's comfortable to be like, oh, I've got this disorder or disability or blah blah blah, or this is the reason why I'm a fuck up. And you've never tried once. There's this joke that who's this guy called Ari Maddie, why do I need math? I think it's triangles. Let's see if I could find the video. Uh, no, Ari, comedian. Okay, here we go.
I went to the cafe
Let's close out of this.
yesterday.
Okay, let's go ahead and up the volume here.
Sitting there, and then I overheard a couple having a.
No, this is no, he's talking about trying to promote homosexuality like a legit fucking queer. Um, I mean, you can probably find it. I don't think it. Why do I need math? I don't know, but his joke goes something like this. He's like, you know, I mean, over the top. He's like, when will I ever use this? When do I need this? When it's like, oh, a triangle. How is this gonna help me? You know, and it's like, technically, math is just another language. Music is a language. Art is a type of language. It's like a flow. How many types of flow ability do you have that you have to your utilization? Body language is a flow. You have fitness as a flow. Okay, because when you really connect with your body, you can come up with their own exercises. You're not doing the same bullshit on the machines or powerlifting moves. You can come up with their own fitness. The amount of times I go to the gym and I do my own little weird movements is like at least 20% of my exercises. Okay, because it feels good. I like, I have that flow in me. Okay, it's like white people can't even like write anymore. They don't even know how to read. They're like, oh, I have autism, or what's the one where you can't dyslexia. I've dyslexia. Okay, I mean, if that's the excuse you want to take, by the way, like, I'm not saying that people who have these actual things, um, I'm not like downplaying it if it's a real thing, but even if it's a real thing, so what? Overcome it, figure it out. Okay, you have debilitating dyslexia. Okay, so take that debilitation, keep working on it, don't stop. Failure is not an option, but then, you know what? Just put it more in your math skills, you know? Isn't it that easy? You just like, okay, on to the next. But you will pass with great grades. Failure is not an option there. Unless if you have like a severe retardation and you can't do it. But I doubt that's the case for most people. Most people are comfortable in accepting that they have a weird abnormality. I've noticed this thing, by the way. Um, when I was there were a couple of girls I've talked to in the past that lived in cities, and the amount of them that have a very niche, rare condition thing, or they need to take a drug for this thing or that thing. And I'm like, you're just being sold a belief by your priest, which is the doctor. You know, I once knew this woman that was like, I didn't have more kids because I had some breathing problems. And so, like years later, I had to get surgery to open up my breathing passage. I'm like, it's about, no. Like, I know you very well. It's not that you have breathing problems and like you can't breathe. Okay, I know your personality. This is called scapegoating. The amount of people that are scapegoating for their own failures and incapabilities is unbelievably mind-blowing. And the expansion of the medical industry to just diagnose every little fucking thing as a goddamn excuse, it's crazy, and people want to believe it. They want to. Oh, I have a problem. Well, why don't you sit there for like 3 months and practice taking deep breaths through your nose? Why don't you go for a run and just only use your nose and not your mouth, and you will see that your nose will open up, your ears will open up, you'll feel it. Okay, have you tried that first before then just saying, I can't. I have this weird abnormality. It's like, dude, okay? It's wild to me the amount of people that just sit on excuses. I've been doing some programming and I've been learning how to make a game. And one of the things that was limiting me in producing a game was graphics. Graphics is a highly, highly complicated thing that you, the consumer, probably have no idea. In fact, if you play video games and you don't know the layers of graphics involved, and you've been playing any game for more than, I would say, 300 hours, if you've been playing a video game for any one video game for more than 300 hours, or gaming in general for more than 300 hours, and you don't know the types of animation involved in playing video games, I mean, I think you're I think you're a repulsive, disgusting piece of shit human being. Am I crazy to say that? I don't think so. I once played this game called Maple Story. And it's funny because when I couldn't play it, I kept researching it. I kept looking up info. I figured out how the maps were working. I was memorizing maps and locations of things and how to string the path together. And I was making lists of quests. And then not only was I making a list of quests, I was trying to say, hey, what's the most efficient path for all of these quests? So when I get back to playing the game, I can do it efficiently. Okay? I was researching more and more about the video game to be better at it. And it was my love of that game that later took me to the point where, oh, what are all the different cosmetics that I could get? Which one looks the best? Let me play around with every single fucking option and combination possible. I'm sure you've done that. Like, there's no way you haven't done that. But the fact that you didn't know that that is also part of learning all aspects of the graphics further illustrates that um, you are wasting your life. You know, if you can put 1,000 hours into playing video games and you haven't figured out how to make a video game, well, what is what like is your purpose in life to just consume? Like what that analogy is. The planet Saturn, which is called Father Time. Father Time is often depicted cannibalizing his own children. You're like, whoa, that's intense. Why is that intense? Time, okay? Father Time is not bound by time, but every one of his offsprings are, and he must consume what dies, right? He must extract the time from everything because he is like the archon of time. If you were the archon of lightning, you'd be like Thor or something, okay? If you were the archon of an electric universe, you'd be Zeus. But you're bound to that, you know, that one specific authority is given to you. You're given the authority of time. And so you will have grandchildren. Well, those grandchildren will one day get old and time will consume them. Okay? And it's the consumption of time that both pleases that archon and strengthens it. It's the distribution of time to humanity and then taking it away from them. You know what's funny is this is a little tangent. Your words and your mindset can define your capabilities in life. Now, obviously, we're not going to take this to the stupid level where, oh, you can fly and then you fly. Okay? If you were never told that you can't fly, then you will be able to fly. And that sounds crazy, but that is true. But it's not going to be like you jump off a cliff and then now you're soaring like a bird, right? So once you put a definition to something, it confines your reality. Now, if you're unable to say, well, says you, fuck you, who are you? Oh, time. Oh, it's 2 o'clock. Fuck you. You know what I see? I see what afternoon looks like. To me, afternoon is like 12 o'clock. Okay? And to me, time accelerates, the day accelerates during winter. That's what I see. So my time in winter is very limited, and I must work extra hard and rest more. And in the summer, I have the luxury of more hours. You know, I determine my reality to that sense. If you want to confine yourself to, oh, I work 5 days and then, okay, finally we're on Saturday for the weekend. Let me just grab a beer or turn on the video game and just don't bother me. I'm going to eat my breakfast and then just chill and play some video games and have some lunch and play some video games. And I really I don't know what people do nowadays. I really don't know how people are passing their time. Is it oh it's Friday. I'm gonna go binge watch Netflix late until the night, and then I'm gonna sleep in on Saturday, and then I'll probably eat a lazy breakfast, and then maybe I'll do some binge watching or some laundry while I sit there and play a video game, and then DoorDash me some lunch, you know? Like what the fuck do people do? That's why you will be replaced. You're clearly you've been given everything in life. You have reached the peak of your existence. So if this is how you're operating with your life, then you shouldn't have complaints. If you're operating your life in some other way, like actually working, and you're like, dude, um, you know, like, oh, we're building this house and the concrete factory got shut down because of some legislation, and now, the price of each brick is gonna triple. Maybe you can have an issue with that and go to the guy responsible for that. But then if you're gonna sit there and buy a house and be like, oh, the price went up. You know what's so funny about people complaining about the price of houses? It's a very subtle manipulation. Oh, people can't afford houses anymore. Do you know why the price of houses keep going up and the quality keeps going down? Because people have forgotten how to build houses. It's like you can go to Italy and you'll be like, "Oh, the pasta's so good." And the bread, they say that, I can eat as much pasta as I want in Italy and I'll never get fat. I'm losing weight eating pasta in Italy. It's so good for you. And then you come here and it gives you like, type 2 diabetes or something. Okay, why is that the case? Because everybody there makes their own bread. Just about every house is raising their own bread with their own yeast and their own culture. And so there is no room for it to be monetized, homogenized, centralized, and then there's no value to it. You can't pay $500 for a loaf of bread there because everyone and their grandmother is making high quality stuff. So it actually lowers the price point, it increases the availability, and it also drives the demand. Okay? Where you'd be like, hey, I just worked all day, I can't afford to eat out, I'm gonna make me a sandwich at home, right? It actually what that actually does is there's less profit per slice of bread, but you'd be like, I don't have to make it. I trust this community to provide it for me while I go make something else. You know what? I'll focus my time on sculpting marble. And when I get paid at the end of the day, I'll go to the bakery and get food. Versus the modern world, you can't even get to that point, right? So, you build, and it's funny because it's like everything good worth doing has no dollar value at the end of it. I've asked people to try to help me to do some yard work, and it's funny because their immediate response is like, "How much are you gonna pay?" It's like, well, fuck you. How much am I gonna pay? How about the fact that I'm spending thousands of dollars to figure out a skill that you don't even know how to do? If you knew how to do it, I would pay you to do it. You don't even know how to do it, and you don't really have a job. So the fact that I'm giving you lunch money essentially is actually a pretty good deal. And I'm not even working you that hard. It's like you need to have the passion to do the work yourself. I have the passion to do the work myself. You don't show up that day, I'm still going to be shoveling dirt. If you want to show up that day and shovel dirt, you think there's nothing to learn from shoveling dirt? It's like tell this guy. Oh, not this guy. I think this guy's gay. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna see. Let me see if I could pull it up. Videos. I don't know if he's. I think it's in his latest episode. I don't think it's gonna work though if I log in. Let me see. I might have to take it off screen real quick. Oh, it's working. Hang on. Okay. I'm gonna try to find it in like one shot. Okay, two shots. Three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. I don't know where he mentioned. I think it's later actually. Okay, so we got a picture of that dude right here. Is this the one? Dude, this is it. This is the clip.
By the way, never pasteurize your exactly.
Wait, are we close? Oh, right here.
Outside this door, there's a bunch of goats who want to storm the castle. Up, up, up. So what do? Time for some pornography and corn syrup. So now when I open the door, and now I get to pick them off one by one. Hey, do you want a loan with that car? 2% financing. And you're stuck. Now I'm behind you. And there's your wealth. You see how control works? Very simple. Student loans, interest on your student loans. I hope all the dining hall meal plans and bisexual experiences were worth it. Because now for the rest of your life, interest on the student loans, interest on the student loans. Hey, enjoying your Hollywood entertainment up there? Interest on your student loans, interest on your student loans. You want a boat? You want a ski-doo? Hey, black goat. It's the blonde ghosts that are taking your milk, not me. It's the blonde ghosts. Now get in there. Come on, justice. Go get some justice. Get some justice. Black goats matter. Black goats matter. Yeah, it's that blonde goat out there taking your milk. Now why don't we get you a nice loan? Time for some justice. You know that it's the guard.
You know what's funny about this? In that example, I mean, dude, this is what I mean. The truth has an infinite amount of analysis that's possible, and you can just gain. It's just like so much wisdom packed into truth. Okay, that Ski-Doo example is so funny because I once had this girl tell me like, "Oh, you don't really like dress too well or something. Like you got to spend more money on clothes." And I'm like, "You must not value my money the way you clearly don't value me. Do you value me based off the clothes I wear? What if it's like I'm saving my money to make something of myself and then I don't really care for clothes. So when I make a bunch of money, you could buy nice clothes." Right? So it's like this weird material deflection, right? And I bring this example up because if you take a look at and this isn't the only time I've seen, somebody was like, oh, it's like like if you have a boat and like this is the maintenance on it, like this amount of dollars, and they say, boat just means throw another thousand or something, but you have a boat, you have some maintenance. Oh, you're just being cheap, just pay it, you have a nice thing. It's like, well, you don't understand the difference between actually earning your money and being a slave and having your money situation taken care for you. If you have a slave mentality, you'd be like, "Oh, I'm making this many $100,000. I can budget this into my expenditure, and then we're good." Okay? You understand the difference? One is you're expecting your slave master to feed you and you're spending it to your own comforts. Versus the other one is like, "Oh, we're blessed this year to make this much money. Okay, let's do something valuable with it and keep doing valuable things with it." And it would be an insanely stupid idea to take this little amount of money you're earning and be like, "Oh yeah, let me just budget it in for a guaranteed luxury expense that will keep happening." Okay? We're trying to save all the money that we can while maximizing profit while we can, so we can put that into something valuable so that it can gain value and ease our financial burdens, and then we can spend more time raising kids. And then when we raise more kids, we can give them a better, happier future and show them more value and things that's possible. And then you know what? By the time you're done with that kind of mentality, you'll end up as one of these guys. Or you could say, you know, it's like, I had this philosophy where like if you buy yourself expensive things, I think I think that's extremely homosexual behavior. if you are given something as an expensive gift, I think that's the only time you're allowed to have nice things. You know, if somebody's like, oh, dude, you know, like I have a buddy who's a musician. If I asked him for a guitar, he'd give me one. And that guitar would add more value. I would value that guitar more than somebody else's $1,000, $2,000, $8,000 guitar because it was given to me by a friend, right? Now, the same concept is for expensive things. If you have to buy yourself a Rolls Royce, if you have to buy yourself a Lamborghini, you're missing the point of it. You need to be powerful enough where somebody gifts you a Lamborghini. Okay, they say, "Oh, this guy showed up to my event. Oh, let me entice him a little bit. Here's a free Lamborghini for you. Thanks for showing up. I know your time is valuable. Thank you for coming here. Here's a Lamborghini. You can drive it around. You know, here's the paperwork. I'm sure, you know, we'll figure out how to ship it to you later." Right? I think that's how you're supposed to have fancy things. Until people aren't willing to give that to you, I don't think you've earned it. This dude walking around with the suit, you know, like, okay, yeah, he might have physically paid for it. He might have physically paid for that pimp cane. But the reality is it was realistically divisible by everyone there, you know? Like between his four kids, it's like, did he actually pay with his own $400 to buy that pimp cane, or 4,000? That, you know, or was it more like, no, father, my money is your money, and we're all making money, and you can have this, okay? And also, did he need to ask permission for it, or were they like, hey, we're doing good, we're gonna go here, I want you to spend money, get something nice? And was that subliminal? You know what I mean? So like, did he actually pay for it, or was he really given this? Now, granted, he could have just went out and bought it, but do you think the way this guy's walking with this fresh fit, what do you think the reality of that situation is? You know? So let's go ahead and finish this little video here.
Dogs that are the problem. Remember when one bit you in the ankle? Swag, goats, matter. Yeah, just keep taking those loans. Black, goats, matter. Hey, Annie, that black goat that came before you got like twice as much grain over there. Yeah, didn't even pay for it either. Totally taking your grain. All right, let's get to work. Let's make America great again. Hey, Gary, you know how I rubber banded off your balls so you'll never get a beard like the Three Amigos? And it's because we have enough goats and I'm calling the population. Well, it's because you're brave and beautiful. And your new name is Caitlin. It's because you're the good guy, not because I'm trying to limit all your population. Black Lives Matter. Make America great again. Black Lives Matter. Make America great again. Hey, Three Amigos. You guys ready to pump? Gotta get rid of them guard dogs, huh? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that was very illuminating. In the end of the day, that's the only color that matters when you're a goat farmer. It's the color of your product. And in global governance, that would be green. It's just the label.
So, Ladle.tv, I recommend you check out Owen Benjamin. I love that guy. That guy's awesome. He gets it. Very few people out there, I get it. You know, it's funny, I think rural whites get it. They really do get it. But it's a shame because not all of them get it. Only a few rural whites that I've ever met actually get it. Um, you know, not surprisingly, a lot of immigrants get it. And I'm going to end on this story, and this is, I've said this story a million times, but clearly because I don't have many followers, it's worth repeating over and over again. I once knew this guy, another story of an illiterate immigrant, okay? This illiterate immigrant from Afghanistan. The guy worked years, you know, probably to pay off his work visa until he got some sort of citizenship. He married this, you know, he got married. Clearly looks wasn't his category in marriage, okay? and they had 3 kids. Clearly, looks was not the category for his marriage. But man, they were so poor. You know what they did? They were living out of a car while renting a space to open their first restaurant for takeout. And he would sleep in the car. And then as he got enough money, he bought a second used car, so twice the sleeping area. And every now and then he'd grab a U-Haul to quote restock the store, and then they'd put like a mattress in there and make it into a little bed, and they would use that as their bedroom while they use the truck during the day for work, while at night it's like their expanded living space. Okay? And he kept doing that until his business made money. He would run that store, he would do his own deliveries, he would run that store himself. You can go there during the late hours and the early mornings where you're like, how does this guy have these workers? Because that dude is sleeping in that car over there. He comes out, you can see the redness in his eyes, but dude, the smile on his face. He's like, "Hello, brother. Good evening, brother. Come on, let's get you food." Okay? That guy, I think, has 3 locations right now. A couple of food trucks in New York. He's got a house to staff his house some of his workers. And he was calling me the other day to see if I have a farm where I could get him thousands and thousands of chickens. I'm like, whoa. You're looking at like 1 million chickens like a month or a year. Like, this is crazy high number. That's fantastic. Okay? And it's like that like blows my mind that he did something like that. It's insane. It's insane to me. Okay? Um Illiterate. He was telling me he doesn't know how to read the contracts. He doesn't know how to find a place to rent, to even have an apartment. He doesn't understand that. Um that's like, dude, I'm dumbfounded. Like it's like, wow. Wow is like, it's like an understatement. I don't know. I mean, that's just where I'm at. By the way, that video with the goat farming thing, dude, it's amazing. And that's why farmers have so much value. If you think there's no value in shoveling dirt, you have no idea. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's why I think sports are gay. Sports is the gayest thing you could do as a man because, first of all, you're putting yourself in a prisoner mindset. You have rules that you must play within. You can get a little creative within the rules, but the whole point of all of the rules is to limit all of your creativity. And you have to follow the rules. You can't bend the rules in any way. They want you to operate as a linear robot. And then you're collecting stupid points against other people. Reality is not about you collecting points on other people. It's about you going out there and just building an awesome thing and then everyone benefits. It's it's not man versus man. It's man versus reality. You can shovel dirt. First of all, it's like, dude, when I've shoveled dirt, I figured out tire pressure situations, axles. I figured out the difference between wooden versus fiberglass handle for material, how to hold the shovel the right way, different types of gloves for what they're really used for. I can appreciate all of them. The different consistencies of soil, what you look for in the terminology, which soil, how it sets, how you compress it, the way, the what shoes to wear, like all of these little things just within the task of just shoveling dirt. But then, when I'm doing something like that, that can also help me when I'm doing something else, right? Like if I'm going to sit there and I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to do paver. and I have to deal with sand. Well, I've already worked with dirt. I can work with sand a little bit better. Now, and that can also translate to something else. When you're next time you go and you're trying to buy a car, you can remember that, oh, just like how when you were buying soil, there's three, four different types. So in that similar situation, when you're looking to look for an option for something on your car, you could be like, oh, does it have this, that, or the other thing? And then it's like, you know, it expands your ability to operate in the world. Every farmer who's dealt with animals knows this situation about how to deal with livestock. Towards the end of that clip, you saw how the farmer's like, "Oh, we don't need more people, so we're gonna change what you are right there. What do you name him, Bruce? You rename Bruce to Jenner or something, or Kylie or something like that. Um, it's like, why do you think it's any different in your life? You want to be a slave, so the slave master saying, "Oh, we have enough mouths to feed." You don't think for the past 20 years when they were screaming climate change to you or carbon credits for a minute, you were thinking, hang on, they're talking about my consumption and how it's no longer productive for them to provide that for me. You didn't stop for a minute and think about it that way? Well, then you can't complain when the outcome happens. I mean, you can complain, but then, like, you're kind of a piece of shit, right? At least the goat isn't complaining. The goat's happy to be fed. The goat's not going to sit there and depressed and, like, be angry and bitter at the world. Even the one that has his balls tied, he's still going to be happy when he sees the feed. He's still going to be happy when he sees the master. So you might as well just be happy. Dude, by the way, I don't dislike people who don't have businesses or don't have a business mindset. Slave mindsets are wonderful. If you have a successful business and you find a bunch of people you like and you can just pay them to do a job, oh, that would be great. The loyalty you can get when you just throw some money at people, plus if you like them, they'll work for you honestly. Okay? But it's when you try to pay somebody to work for you and they want something from you, you know? That is when you have to be like, okay, um or they want what you have. If they're working for you and they want what you have, that's a bad recipe. That's when you get the worker that's like, oh, if I was doing it, I'd do it like this, blah blah blah, like that, and you don't want those people in your life because those people know that they can do it, but they don't have the balls to do it. So they can sit there and be bitter and bitch all they want. Why would you allow that into your life? You would distance yourself from that, right? Anybody who has a job and is bitching about their job and their employer, stay away from those people. Anyways, that's all for now. Truther.tv. By the way, I am making a game, and it's coming out swimmingly, and I'm loving every step of it. I messaged an old buddy of mine, and he's thrilled about it, and he might get into it. And I'm like, yes, finally. Okay, 15 years later, we're about to do this. We're about to kick this off again. Let's get it done, you know? And by the way, it's like you make something you love, and how can you not find one other person in this world that will appreciate what it is that you're doing and be like, hey, dude, great stuff. Here's a couple dollars. How much is that? Oh, I can afford that? Okay, here you go. Let's exchange values. You must be a deranged, grotesque abomination to not be able to produce a single thing that is valuable. And that says something about your internal soul as well when you say, oh, how am I going to find somebody that will give me money for this? Because you're rooting it, the motivation there is money. The motivation there is an, oh, I love this. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to keep working on it. We're going to keep making it better. If that guy can do it, and now I know it's possible, why can't I do it? Boom. What? It's that simple. I was told this story by this buddy of mine about how when they were kids, this one guy figured out how to cut material with the CNC machine. Not that complicated, but he obviously kept upgrading it and upgrading the tolerance of it and things like that. And he loved the temple and he loved making things and he loved doing this thing. So the temple kept paying him for his production, and he kept putting money back into it, and he would only give the work to the temple. The temple would help him out with like materials and technology, and that was the exchange. He sold it to zero outside customers. He loved his God, and he loved to make things for his God and his place of worship. And years later, the complexity of this guy's machine, before you could purchase it, you couldn't buy this technology at the time, right? Before it becomes available to you and I, you have people who are doing it themselves on a local level, not advertised, to produce very specific products. This is like back in the day when you could buy these flasks. How many people were making these flasks, right? And then now, how many people are making them, right? It started off with the guy with the passion and a will to make it, and he exclusively made it, and he made it for, for whatever his particular purpose was. And then now he distributed it to the world, and then now the world knows of it, and more people got inspired, and they make their own things, and now there's more design, and that's the beauty of the rippling effect of it all. But he didn't want to take it further for personal profit. He just wanted to serve that thing. So out of his garage, he just has these advanced machines that he builds and develops on his own, and he's happy with that. He's happy to serve that aspect of his life. You know, where why is it impossible to find a single person, especially American born, due to all of these examples I'm giving you are immigrants. If you're going to say that, oh, the American culture is going to be eradicated by these immigrants. No, I think what I'm describing is the American spirit. To make it by your own means, work hard. That's what working hard is, by the way. It's not, I mean, yes, you can work hard at your job too. Don't get me wrong. That's obviously a very real, legitimate thing you're supposed to be doing, anyways. You're supposed to be working your ass off at work. You know, my first job was very remedial. I was a delivery boy. But in the free time of being a delivery boy, waiting between time to go out to do delivery, I would just sit there and fix the inventory, and then the employer's like, ah, okay, let's put him on a little payroll, you know, for that instead of just the delivery stuff. And then I'll teach him how to take an inventory. I never asked about more money or more pay. Dude, when I got tips as from my delivery, I just gave it to my employer. I was like, "Oh, they gave me a little bit extra. Here you go." It's like, "That's for you." I'm like, "What do you mean it's for me?" No, no, you pay me. They gave me extra, so I guess this is for you. They're like, "No, no, no, it's for you." I'm like, "No, I don't understand. You pay me. Why would I need more money? You're already paying me." Right? So they gave me more responsibility. So, okay, all right, you know what? You can close out the cash register. I'm like, okay, cool. Close out the cash register there before the last delivery, and then you don't have to come back at the end of the day. Just we'll collect the money tomorrow from you in the morning when you come in, or whenever you come in. Don't worry about it. Oh, here's inventory. Take an inventory, stock it up. Okay, more job. Okay, you know what? You know, it's like, oh, while you're not doing anything, it's like, okay, now there is no inventory to be checked in, there is no cash register to be closed. I'm just sitting around. There's an open computer. Let me just fuck around with the software and just check out what's going on and be like, oh, okay. So that's how he's doing that. That's how you run this or that or figure that out. Okay. Maybe they show you something like, oh, run this report and then order this. Okay, now that you have that, you can figure something out. Or like, hey, boss, check this out. What if we do this? Then you can get a list of this, and then you can go from there and then do that. You're basically a manager. Okay, you know what, kid? You can clock people in, clock them out. I'll show you how to add up their hours. And then when that's done, write out the checks and then call me. I'll verify it, sign off on their payroll. Okay, dude, you just went from being delivery boy to a manager. Be like, all right, you know what? Um, on Saturday, you're gonna open the store and close the store. Here's the key to the store. Here's the password. I never asked for more pay yet, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. They surely did compensate me more for it, but think about how many skills I learned. Okay, now I'm managing the employees when they come in, come out, dude. And that's all because I was a delivery boy. And I would see people, some of the staff hated me. I didn't get it. They'd give me the side look. They wouldn't talk to me. They would keep their distance, very few words. They were bitter and resentful. Okay? And it was probably because I was also bringing down their expectation of money. Because if this nigga can do it with minimum wage and he got no problems and he's happy, granted, I was a kid too, so like I didn't have bills, but like my philosophy still has not changed. You chose to work at the place for the money you work for. How are you going to go back and bitch for more money? That's called being a beggar. You don't want to be, you're already a slave. Don't also be a beggar. And you have the freedom to choose your master, so go pick a different guy. Or be happy with where you're at, or work hard until the guy pays you more. Is it like, is it that complicated? And I know there's going to be a set of people that will listen to something like this and, you know, they'll spiral. It'll absolutely just like be like, you don't know what it is, blah blah blah. Well, you know, I don't know, man. I just gave you like 3, 4 examples in my life that prove otherwise, and you're kind of just wasting oxygen if you can't come up with some examples on your own. And by the way, you don't have to come up with examples on your own because now you have the ability to go on the internet and find people who do. You can experience the wisdom of hundreds of thousands of men who are in better positions in life than you and observe the outcome of their life to even see if the things that they're saying are valuable from a complete audience perspective. You can look at somebody like look at Jordan Peterson, and the guy's made hundreds of millions of dollars preaching life philosophies. And look at how his life has turned out. Then what does that say about what he preaches? You can do that. You have access to people who are worth so much money. And it's not just money, but it's like, I know that's a big motivating factor to people, but so much knowledge, a wealth of knowledge. It's mind blowing. I know the Bible will will turn a fool into a wise man, and that's without a doubt. New Testament. I think one of the fun things I like to do is just read the New Testament and only read what Christ wrote. Like, oh, you need the context. Fuck you. No, I don't. You can't tell me how you can figure out. You're stupid. I'll read it the way I want to read it. Okay. To me, that's fun. Just listen to what the guy said and get rid of all of the BS. Um, and it's not really BS, but like if you have an IQ, you can put the perspective of the writer and the context, and you can. It's like the whole point is to say Christ is the only way to God, and the way you do that is you adopt what he teaches over and over and over again. That's the whole point. The whole point of the Bible, by the way, is that despite us being, despite the closest students he had, okay, he had 12 students, followed him all over the place, loyal students, all 12 of them, they betrayed him, and yet he still forgave them. That's the whole point. Is if you keep trying to be a better person, God will forgive you and you can enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay? I think that's the whole purpose of the Bible, and Christ is proof of that. That's just how I view it. Okay? And then the second thing in the Bible is you have King Solomon, which is supposed to be the most powerful king that has ever existed. And he's written a list of virtues and values to follow. And there's a timeless truth to that, that you'd be like, all right, fine. Maybe 2,000 years ago, he doesn't know how to navigate the New York City subway system, but he must have something valuable in there that I could apply to my life. I wonder what the greatest, wisest king to like have ever existed, wealthiest, richest, like if you think Andrew Tate with his bitches and Dan Bilzerian with his yachts, and if you think that is great, you should see what King Solomon had. Okay? And let's see what he has to say about things. Okay? I mean, you just took away the concept of the theology out of all of it, and you said, all right, let's just see what he said. I mean, if you don't want to listen to his advice, and I don't know whose advice you should live on to be a successful steward of your, of your land, of your territory, of your life. You could bump it up the next level and go to Christ. But like, how much further do you have to look to just be like, work hard, don't be distracted. It's about glorifying God, and it's not about like vain material you know acolytes, is that the right word? But anyways, it's funny how I can never keep these videos under an hour. I like the way I'm going with this. I really do. I'm pleased with myself. So, truther.tv guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.